Excellent. We made it. We're a few minutes late, but that's kind of typical for us. Hi, everyone. It's Rebecca and Alex from Homeopathy United, and we're popping on a day early to talk with you about remedies for our animals during the holidays. Holidays are so stressful for so many of us, and it's not just the family getting together or the chaos, it's also the travel and the change in schedule and the change in diet and so on and so forth. And Dr. Alex and I thought we might give you a couple of tools to use to help your animals through all of this. Hi, Alex. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Nice to see you.
Animals and themselves, it applies.
Oh, no question. Yes, you can use remedies across the board for all of this, for sure. So let's see. Let me share some of the lovely slides that we created for everyone. There, can you see that, Alex?
Beautiful.
Okay. Fantastic. So we have several remedies to share with you and some interesting holiday stories, as I'm sure we all have. And it's wonderful to connect with everybody the day before Thanksgiving. So thanks for signing on if you're able. We watch our animals go through so many different emotions over the course of the year. But when we change our schedules, when the time changes, when we travel or we go away and we leave them alone and leave somebody else to care for them, there's a lot of stress that happens for them. So we just kind of wanted to speak to that. And the first remedy is Calc Carb. Alex, will you chat a bit about that?
So Calc Carb is a very lazy, heavy, and indolent dog, or it can be a horse, it can be any kind of animal. And usually they are averse to exercise. They just very quiet, don't bother me. And this many times what we define, especially dogs, as the potato couch, because you kind of need to drag them for a walk, they're very happy just sitting and lazing around. They are very routinistic animals, so they thrive in routine, and usually they are fearful of strangers or any change, new situations, and of course holidays is one of them. And usually, it's not as the slide says on what they do, but what they will not do. And they will just, get away from things, and you have to drag them and force them, kind of push them into do something that is not familiar to them. These dogs, especially with dogs, they can have, when we say love, it can go either way. It can be a strong desire or a strong aversion. But usually these dogs, they like, or they have an affinity for fruits and eggs, which they might love or they might not want to touch. And milk generally gives them diarrhea. Excellent. So this is Calc Carb.
So don't give them any eggnog or sour cream.
Because they might crave it, and it's actually very good for them. If you give them eggs, make sure you give them with the shell, because they need the calcium in, that they have a problem with the assimilation of calcium. So
important. Yeah. And we'll talk about cell salts about that in shortly as well. So the next remedy is phosphorus. They tend to be very overexcited, lacking concentration. They'll pull at the lead and jump out of their skin at any sudden noise or strange sound. This type is also very reluctant to stay alone. And we had a fascinating phosphorus case that kind of spearheaded our practice together. And it's worked out beautifully. He was so nervous and so panicked about staying alone and literally would jump out of his skin with loud noises that he would jump through a window to get outside if his owners were even standing right outside in the backyard. So imagine what it's like for one of these animals to have 20 people show up for Thanksgiving and total chaos, and everybody is running around and making noise, and you're playing music, and you're banging pots and pans, and this is very, very traumatic for these animals, dogs and cats, and great remedy to have on hand for them. Alex, is there anything that you would add to phosphorus that would be supportive this time of year?
No, what you said covers it quite well. What I would say, what people should remember is that it's a dog that is very clinging, so they will follow the owner everywhere. So if they have to be put away because there is a party and there are small children, or for whatever reason you lock them in a different room, is going to be extremely stressed.
Yeah.
And usually dogs needing phosphorus, they are very fearful of noises. So, they're very sensitive to noise. And bear in mind with that, usually they go into a complete panic station if there is a storm. So if you have a holiday and it's a nervous dog and the noise excites them, that's the remedy.
That's going to add to it. Yeah. Yeah, phosphorus is great for that. So the next remedy we wanted to talk about was Hepar Sulph, and I just love this picture because I used to, actually I still do, but I used to have a couple of Bengals, and that's what this cat is. And they are so oversensitive and restless. The cats that we had, oddly enough, they did not tear down the Christmas tree, which was a blessing, but they would get so crazy that we had to baby proof the house from 7 feet down because they would knock things over. They'd run across the top of the piano. They'd knock vases off. I'd hang them up I'd set them up really high of flowers or whatever, any level of chaos, and they would just go bonkers. But these guys are very, very oversensitive. Hepar Sulph is very oversensitive to pain, especially. They're very restless. And they will kind of tell you if they don't like you, which is very clear in this picture that this cat was like, yeah, I'm not sure you're the person I really want in my house right now. So something to think about as you're having company. If you have one of those animals, Hepar Sulph might be something to reach for.
Yeah.
Cocculus. This is the one that you actually taught me about this when I think we talked about this briefly before you came, and then when you visited, this was one of the remedies that you had handy for traveling.
But it works for me anyway. It works beautifully for jet lag, and you saw I was adopted from the first day.
You hit the ground running. It was amazing. It was amazing.
So, and the same on my back, but it's a very good remedy for traveling, especially by car. And if the dogs or any other animal needs to travel and is very, and they vomit, because it's not the fear of the car, but it's the nausea that the motion sickness, riding causes, then this is a remedy that you should have on hand, and give it at least 2 hours before, and then again another dose as soon as you get into the car. In the car, okay. And if it is a very long trip, after 2 hours, repeat it again. Excellent, especially if you're able to stop and give them a break or what have you. So the next remedy is Chamomilla, and I thought this was a great picture. How many times have you gone to somebody's house and the moment you walk through the door or even step into the yard,
you get plowed over by a dog, and they can be small or large. I had a Mastiff almost take me down the other day. And, she's young and gregarious and excited and so on and so forth, but they're unruly and they just need to be calmed down. And if you think about anybody that's used Chamomilla for small children, whether it's for teething or they're really irritable or what have you, they're like, you just can't get them to shut it off. And Chamomilla is fantastic for pets that are like that. They're emotionally charged. They're not satisfied with the attention that you give them, or if you give them treats or what have you, they just want more and more and more and more. And they're constantly kind of pushing you to the edge.
Yeah, it's not a nice animal to have around at all, I would say, from all the materia medica. Chamomilla, if it is constitutionally, then you are into deep trouble, I would say. Because it's not that they are just excited and unruly like a Phosphorus or any other, excitable remedy. They are dissatisfied with everything in the world, and they are angry and intolerant and impatient, which is
not an agreeable animal to have around, especially during the holidays.
Exactly. No.
So Belladonna, this sign just cracked me up when I was looking for pictures to share. The picture on the side is a pretty good sign. This horse is really going for this guy's arm. And if you have ever been around animals that do this type of thing, they can move so fast and it can come out of the blue. You think everything's okay, and then all of a sudden, bang, they hit you. And they're very highly strung, oversensitive. They're prone to sudden fits of aggression and clearly have a tendency to bite. I think about these remedies too as we travel and we have people take care of our animals. And for us, our animals might be great. But then you have somebody new come in, and this happened with my sister's dog. She had a young woman who I think she was studying in vet school. I mean, she's very, very good with animals. She did great with the horses, but the dog was very upset with her. And she was feeding the dog, and she stayed too close to the food bowl. And he gave her a warning. She didn't listen. And a lot of times, there are cues, but you don't pick up on them until after something's happened. So if you have one of those animals, Belladonna is, and you know that you're going to have a lot of people around, or you're going to have somebody taking care of them, you might consider having this remedy handy for them.
Well, I would give the Belladonna and make sure the dog would not be around people anyway, because the Belladonna you can give if it is somebody that is, a pet sitter that is very well educated, and you are decreasing the probability of biting. But still, don't trust, that you give Belladonna and the dog will not bite.
And that it's going to be safe, right? You need to have some clear understanding and period of time that that it's going to be safe. That particular dog also gave my son a shot off the bow when he was young, but he had this real thing about his ears being touched. You could do anything with this dog, but my son, not knowing, pet his ears. He had the softest ears, but he did not like them touched. And he was huge. He was a giant shepherd police dog, and my son was just petting him and everything was great. And then the next thing you know, what came out of that dog was terrifying. And he was very clear that it was only a warning. He bit my son's arm. He did not break the skin. The growl and the bark that happened before was much bigger than the bite. And it was clearly an upsetting situation for everybody in the house, because it was Thanksgiving and, everybody was there, and it scared my son really well. So the next one is Arsenicum. Talk a little bit about this, Alex. We were talking about Arsenicum a little while ago.
So Arsenicum is another remedy that, you will see a lot of restlessness, a lot of agitation in the animal. Cats, dogs, birds, it's a dog that you need to, or a cat that you need to reinforce and talk to him quite a lot and reassure, or a horse, that everything is going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like phosphorus, they become totally out of themselves when the owner goes away. They suffer from extreme anxiety from separation of their carers or owners. And now, how do we distinguish between, because you always have to compare. You can never give a remedy based on one or two symptoms alone. So you see a lot of restlessness, you see a lot of excitement, like with phosphorus. Both of the remedies, they are very clinging animals. So, they will follow you like they are your shadow. You cannot even go to the toilet without waiting outside of the door or being with you in the toilet. How do you differentiate arsenicum from phosphorus? Well, phosphorus will be extremely sensitive to loud noises, while arsenicum it won't be. Phosphorus will be, it's usually very thirsty for big quantities, while arsenicum is thirsty but small and often. A phosphorus dog will be very anxious on a storm or thunderstorm. Not so much. I mean, an arsenicum will be absolutely fine in a storm as long as they are near you. That's all they need. And the other thing that will help to differentiate is that an arsenicum dog, or a dog that needs arsenicum, you will see the restlessness and the anxiety increasing dramatically, usually after midnight. They might be very anxious during the day, but after midnight, they just
it's worse.
And
that's fascinating.
And they will pace to and fro into a room, or they will go around and around, usually between 1 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the morning. These will be the worst times. And if they get diarrhea, because they can get diarrhea as well, if they are overexcited and over nervous, then it will be at this time.
So if that's the case, then like tonight, a lot of people have family come in the night before for the holiday, if they've traveled, or flown or what have you. So if you've had a whole bunch of visitors show up, or even just your parents come in, and your animals start to show signs of this, like between 1 and 3 this morning, you're wanting to sleep until at least 5 a.m. so you can take the turkey out and get things rolling at 5. But if you're seeing that in your animals tonight, you might think of arsenicum. And those are great distinguishing pieces. I loved this picture because the guy was going in to kiss the girl and the dog's like, I don't think so. So there's also a jealousy component with not as severe as Lachesis, though, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. I guess we're going to talk about that now.
Yeah, they are very, very jealous, Lachesis, and it will be very obvious, and it will be very often. But the problem with this is another nightmare of an animal to have. If it is a cat, it will not shut up. And if it is a dog, they will bark at everything and anything. So basically, all the anxiety and all the nervousness, that they experience comes out in barking. So they will
Mm.
bark, 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 and will drive you crazy. If that is
And
the case,
yeah,
Lachesis will be a great help.
excellent. I'm sure a lot of people experience that in the holidays when they have people come or they try to take their animals with them when they travel. And you may even see it with some of your farm animals where you're not on schedule. And so, and you're bringing people out to the barn with you. There were many times where that was an experience for me with my family where it's like, oh, let's go see the horse or let's go see the cows or what have you. And to expect the animals to perform when we have things going on this is when you're going to see some of these personalities really come out. So Scutellaria, I stumbled across this. Alex and I were talking about this morning. This remedy, it's actually Skullcap, and I'm much more familiar with the herb than I am with the remedy. And I was fascinated to find most of the information I found was on an equine site. It is apparently a nervous sedative where nervous fear predominates. So addressing anxiety and other nervous disorders, it's especially for situational anxiety linked to a stressful event. Again, let's say you go out to the barn and you've brought all the little kids, the nieces and the nephews and the grandchildren and so on. And they're like, oh, I want to sit on the horse, or, they want to walk in the stall or what have you. And they make this animal feel really kind of terrified. And this remedy can really settle them down, reduces excitability. Maybe the animal doesn't necessarily get fearful, but they get excited, and whether it's a dog or what have you, and they get too gregarious, they get too big for their situation with people around. And this is a good remedy to think about. So we also wanted to toss in a couple of cell salts and flower essences. We've covered these before, but we've put a little twist on them for the holidays. And one of them is Calc Phos. So a lot of people wouldn't necessarily think of Calc Phos for stress, but when we're stressed, the body uses up the calcium. It depletes the calcium in our system. So this is a great cell salt to start taking like a week before a stressful event. If you know you're traveling with your animals, or if you know that they're going to be left home with someone and it's, a stressful situation, or you have lots of people coming to the house, or even 3 or 4 people, and it's a stressful situation. This is something that you can work with their food, with their diet. There's a picture of sardines here, and broccoli and some feta and some greens, and all of those things are useful when it comes to increasing the calcium in our tissues. And then to have a cell salt, just to put it in their water, preferably if you can get it directly into them, because it's not a remedy, even though it's very much carried the way that a homeopathic remedy is. This is more, what do you call it, Alex? It's a
homeopathic vitamin.
Yes, homeopathic vitamin. That's it. Exactly. So Calc Phos. And then Califos. This has become my new favorite remedy, Alex, because of the story that you told about the young woman who was going to take a test and how nervous she was.
The exams.
Yeah.
That everybody was panicking, and she wanted to panic because all her friends were panicking, and she couldn't because she had taken the remedy.
Because she'd been taking this, yeah. So it's really supportive to the nervous system. You can see the calf in this picture is really kind of freaked out. Whether you're transporting your animals, relocating your animals, or they are just in a situation that's going to cause stress and upheaval. And some animals get very panicky. and they get aggressive because they don't know what else to do. They can't communicate what's happening to them, so they do it physically. And this really calms the brain, the nerves, the muscles, and the heart. And you might have an animal that gets depressed around the holidays because of the stress. Calc Phos is a great cell salt for that.
Yeah, let me just add one thing though.
Yeah.
The fact is that Calc Phos is great as a support remedy, but if the animal is going to be really taxed, because you know, doesn't do well with traveling, or there will be a really stressful situation, don't rely only on Calc Phos, because this is, as we said, like an homeopathic vitamin. And unless a person has a massive affinity, this is used to support the homeopathic remedy or whatever you're going to do. Just by giving a few doses of Calc Phos and expecting the animal to change, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
An animal or a person, actually.
And that's why we encourage with cell salts, we encourage you to start them early. Start them a week before something is coming up, or several days before, or what have you. It definitely makes a difference. And then the last cell salt is Mag Phos. And I looked for a while for a video. I think anybody that has goats or knows about goats has heard about fainting goats. It absolutely cracks me up. If they get stressed, they'll be eating, they'll be walking along, and all of a sudden, bam, down on the ground. And it just, oh my gosh, it's so funny to see. But I can't imagine that it's good for the goat's nervous system.
No.
So, you know, I mean, they're panicking and they're getting kind of rigid. And that's what made me think of that for Mag Phos. It helps your muscles and nervous system, your nerves relax. Stress depletes us of so many things. And it's almost impossible to avoid stress is basically what I'm trying to say. So if you can support your body, if you can support your animal's body and their nervous system and all of these things in advance, it's definitely worth taking the time to do that. And maybe the goats won't faint. Who knows? It'd be interesting to do that study. So now we're going to switch over to flower essences. Anybody that's used Rescue Remedy has probably heard of Star of Bethlehem. This is one of my favorites. Star of Bethlehem Flower Remedy helps with heartaches, shock, and trauma. It can help those who feel numb, are trapped in a state of shock, physically, mentally, or spiritually. I think about animals that you do have to lock away. Star of Bethlehem is a really good flower essence for that. And the nice thing about flower essences, much like cell salts, they're very supportive, they're calming. And this particular one is very comforting and soothing. And then Rescue Remedy, which anybody that's used flower essences, especially for their animals, has probably heard of this. They do make a version of Rescue Remedy that's in glycerin. Some animals don't necessarily respond well to that, but they've done that because alcohol is not processed by the liver in dogs and cats. So Rescue Remedy has 5 different flower essences: rock rose, clematis, impatiens, cherry plum, and Star of Bethlehem. And it's amazing for an overall calming effect. I've seen it work with people and animals, whether you're traveling with them. If you've got them in the car, it's great to put this in their water. If you're having a whole bunch of people over, whether you have to put them away or, put them in another room or what have you, giving them Rescue Remedy really just calms them down. And it's something, the nice thing about flower essences is you can repeat them frequently, and it just takes a couple of drops. And then the last one is Feverfew, deeply calming effect for that intense angst, despair, worry, confusion. If your animals are in another room because it's too chaotic, or if they're underfoot and you can see their stress, their worry, their, just nervous overall, then putting 2 to 4 drops of feverfew in their water. You can do it 3 or 4 times a day. Makes all the difference in the world. And then here we are at the end. Thank you, everyone. It's always a pleasure to connect with you and share this information. We hope that you have a wonderful holiday weekend for those that are celebrating on this side of the pond, and for those that are getting ready for the holidays on the other side of the pond. We wish you all the very best. We're very grateful for you and thankful that you're part of our homeopathy family.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Oh.
There we are. Now we're back. Thank you. It was great to see you, Alex. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend as well. Ciao.
Ciao.